Marxism on the Family, my edition. The picture you've got on before you, can anyone see any similarities, or have you seen anything like this before? So what we've got here is handing down from generation. We've got two sides of perspective. We've got what we call the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So they've got the rich, which we call the bourgeoisie, which is the ruling class, which we'll be talking about. And then we've got the everyday working class, which we're looking at the proletariat. So we can, you understand your task one so far, don't you?
That one, they'll do that after, mate.
Okay.
That one.
Oh, I didn't know you put that in there.
It's all right.
Okay, so Karl Marx, he's the founder of the Marxism ideology, comes from the name. And workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your change. Famous quote from him, quite a powerful one if you think about it in the terms of what it could mean. What does this say to you when you first hear it?
Slavery.
Okay, there.
That you're forced to work.
Yep, very much the case. He looks at the perspective of the case. Oh, what have you done here? He looks at. Apologies, I've not looked at this view yet, so I didn't realise everything was all over. So Marxism, his perspective looks at anti-capitalism. He looks at where the world is and how it is working. Is down to the bourgeoisie, the ruling class, and their ruling over the rest of the world, or the lower class, and making them do all the work so that they can make the cogs turn. They earn the money. The lower class don't see it as much, but they're kept in a transitional state. Now, Marxism is based on class conflict, which it all comes around from the people that are owning the land. And the people that own the land are the ones that have got the housing, the factories, and they've got the power that's going on around it. And they control the lower class through this by giving them the lower paid jobs and the manufacturing, but they don't have enough to get themselves out of this situation. And it comes from the suppression of the working class. Now, they want to make sure that this stops. They're very anti...
Sorry.
Here we go. Sorry, Carl.
Hello, come in.
Come on, Shakira.
So you'll be hearing quite a lot in your research and everything else, the words class conflict. It's a very, very big, important part of it, because it is literally you versus them. Now, this is a strong and dominant ideology, Marxism, because they want you to be rejecting this methodology and rise up and take the power back for themselves. Marxism is the introduction gateway into communism, and this is where they're standing on it. But we're not going to look too far into that, because you're only relating to the family at this point, and you don't want to get lost in that sea of web so far. Now, the status-based conflict aspect of it is the fact that these bourgeoisie, the ruling class, have got these titles, these power, and they amass more and more wealth, and the lower class cannot even attempt to reach this level. And it causes more friction, aggravation through this, which is they're adding more and more conflict as you go around. Now, as Karl Marx thinks of the family, he thinks of the family unit very similar to how he looked at in functionalism. It's a nuclear family aspect. However, instead of it just been unit where you come back to soothe all your wounds, you get yourself all rested from your working day, and you've got the wife there to help you and cuddle you, and then you've got the children there to learn from you. The man uses this as his own little capital empire. He, in turn, becomes a bourgeoisie in the family unit. So he's the top of the chain, and then the women and the children underneath him do all the work for him in that aspect. So it's keeping him in place by the fact that he's got his own little empire going on. Now, whether you feel that's right or not, we've all got our opinions on it, but this is how the Marxists describe the family unit in terms of this.
Sorry, what do you mean by anti-capitalistic?
So, capitalism is how, especially at that time when, and it's still currently going on, it's functioning through companies and organisations, the bourgeoisie, the ruling class. They have got a product that they're trying to sell, and that's how it works. The machine is, you're constantly manufacturing, they're gaining the money, but you don't gain anywhere. You're still in the same place. As much as you've been told that you can achieve something, you never go further. Marx is very anti this, and his entire ideology is you rise above what you are and you take the power back, because if you don't have us, you've got nothing. That's where they kind of go with that. Okay, just let me know when you're all finished and move on to the next one for you.
Can I just say, I love that picture.
I thought you
Sorry.
might.
I looked at the board and I thought I was trying to write, and I was like, "Is that something it really says?"
I had a bit of fun while I was going through my script.
That's great. I like it, mate.
One thing I should add is Karl Marx was German-born philosopher. The right word, philosopher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philosopher.
What's the other word you said? Bourgeois and what?
I'm sorry?
About the rich and the
Oh, the
poor.
bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So, proletariat spelled P-R-O-L-E-T-A-R-I-A-T. It's just a more posh way of saying working class. Everyone ready to go? Yes? No? Anyone? Okay, we're going to go with it anyway. Right, the next person we're going to look at is Mr. Friedrich Engels, also German-born philosopher. Now, this man looked quite a lot into the family, as you probably went into in functionalisms as well. He argues in many cases what the nuclear family is and why it goes into practice. Now, his initial argument was that humans in society were a promiscuous horde, and that for the pass down of wealth, which is what Marxism is, from yourself to your child and so forth, could only be maintained and done if you knew the legitimacy of your heir. So monogamous marriage was introduced, especially back then, as a heavy point, so that you knew who your heir was and you could pass it down legitimately, as opposed to if your wife was here, there and everywhere, would you know it's your child or not? It was very favoured by men when they got told this, as you can probably imagine. And it helped the transfer of wealth, property especially, down through the bourgeoisie, which helped to keep that family in their status names. And as a kind of aspect of this, women became glorified prostitutes in their own way, because they were exchanging not only their bodies and the fact that they could produce heirs and for their own security and their own safety and everything else that comes with that. And yeah, it's not very pretty when it sounds like that, though, is it?
So in them days, monogamous relationships weren't a thing until he decided.
No, it was very much a case of it was tribe culture before the 1800s, really, as you could see in quite a lot of documentation, and if you go back further enough in history, you did take a mate, but whether it came around, you were with that one for a period of time or whatever, obviously we're not there anymore, so I can't really say for sure. But it was set up due to the capitalist nature of how society came about.
Yeah.
Now, Engels produced quite a lot of literature around this, and this is why he's looked to in these circumstances, because he did view societies and cultures not just where he was, but quite around the world as well. He was also another German-born man. Clearly seen a theme here that Germans have got absolutely fantastic beards. Kind of missing mine right now. What do you think to this, though? Is it realistic, if you think about it, the way he's looking at it? If the fact that you are picking a mate solely so you can procreate a legitimate heir, and that's just kind of as far as it goes. You know, the women are there, but whatever, they're around, they're sticking with you for security, but you're only in this relationship to make sure that you get a legitimate heir.
Some cultures still do it.
I'm sorry?
Some cultures still practice this.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah. Things have changed over the last 200 years, but you find that the same philosophies are embedded in no matter where you go. If you break things down far enough, you'll realise that the same set of rules and structure exists.
When you say
Monogamous.
Yeah. Is it people's opinion that says it is? Did you say it's enslaving women or?
You could look at it that way, but a monogamous relationship is two people entering the partnership. So the woman has got a choice of going in there, but what Engels is saying is when she enters it, she's trading her body, her sexuality, the ability to produce an heir for the economic security. So between a man and a woman, it's quite voluntary at one point, but once you're there, you know, the man wants to make sure that you're sticking with him. It's a legitimate heir, so he can pass on his wealth and his property. And it all sounds really good at the beginning, but when you look at what's the end outcome, it doesn't look so rosy. Things have progressed obviously a little bit more since then, so you know, relationships aren't what they were. The nuclear family is not phased out, but it's not as common. You know, our races, genders, and sexualities, you know, can all intermix as and when they please.
Carl's exactly right what he's saying, and that's where that term glorified prostitute comes from. Because one thing that a female has got, and the one thing that she can, what can I say, propose, can sell to someone in society is her body. That's all she really has. Because the man wants an heir. He can't have that with another man. So the one thing you can bargain is your body. Hence, that's where you can then get economic security, because that's what you're offering. Apart from that, Engels kind of sees a woman as just, well, I don't want to sound bad, but you're just a womb. Okay? That's why Kyle was saying to you, what do you think of it? Do you believe that that is all it is? According to Engels, marriage is just an institution and just a way for capitalism to carry on. You know? I don't know, Carl, I don't know how many people in here are actually married, to be honest.
Any of you married?
Anyone married in here?
I am.
No.
Really, you do get married to have kids and to set a foundation, like. So yeah, it's kind of true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. But do you love your husband? Bit of a personal question, but go on.
I do sometimes.
Well, here's
Don't be smooth all the time, but
a more broader question you could ask, which applies to everyone in here. Whose parents still live together and married?
Yeah. Mine.
4 out of the class. So, you know, 4 out of everyone in here, that's quite a low number if you think about it. But if you go back to these times when this was proliferant, that wasn't the case. It was literally, you found one and then you stuck. And there wouldn't be a case of divorce or anything else. Actually, to get out of a marriage, you'd have to die That's
Was
as harsh as that's to say, that is
Yeah.
literally the truth.
Very true.
You know, and if you did stray, then there's a good chance that was going to happen.
What's a promiscuous horde?
Promiscuous horde. So a horde refers to a large group of people, and promiscuity is when you don't care what your partner is, who your partner is, how many times your partner is throughout the week. So people were intermixing left, right, and centre with no structure or keeping together. That's what Engels was saying at the beginning, before the capitalism set in. When it was still tribe culture, there wasn't a marriage foundation set down.
Everyone just mingled with everyone.
Yeah. Basically like cats and dogs, yeah, that's how we lived. It's the simplest way I can think of it right now.
It's a good analogy.
Everyone good to go? Were you finished, sir?
Yeah.
Cool, right, let's move on. Let's see what we've got next. Mr. Zaretsky. So, Eli Zaretsky, American born. He's still alive to this day, and he's still causing waves if you look him up on YouTube. Now, this is where we're going to look into the family in depth as a whole, and I've got another slide after this where I want to talk about how the warm bath theory looks into it as well. It does apply here, but it's just slightly different. They covered the warm bath theory.
Yeah, in functionalism, yes.
Smash it, cool. Okay, so Eli Zaretsky, you've heard of him in functionalism. He thinks that the family is a safety net for the man to come back in. The women soothe the man's woes, all his frustrations. The children are there to learn, develop their gender roles, and that's how the family unit is. It's a nice, cuddly, and brilliant unit for him, in theory. And what he's putting in practice is, saying this, is that once the man's come home after a hard day and done all this, he's ready and vitalised, ready to go back out the next day and start it all over again. And the family unit is important to ensure that the man is ready to go back to work. It's just keeping the working class where they are, because it's just a repeat cycle.
Who's that really benefiting, guys? This alienating of work, this nuclear family. Who's it actually really
Dad.
benefiting? What, sorry?
That.
The man? Oh, totally sorry, Carl.
It's all right.
Yeah, but I reckon.
I know, yeah. See, I must have told. Good job, I ain't going to mark any more of your assignments, Carl.
That's it. I won't be handing you no more 4,000 word research products anymore.
Oh no, do. That's really good. That's really good, actually. This is actually quite strange for me to sit here and not say anything as well. That's quite.
Don't worry, you've got plenty of opportunity after the next one. So.
No, you're doing really well.
Just let me know when you finish writing, guys.
Just to warn you, Carl, if they don't do very well, it is your fault.
Brilliant.
Okay? No pressure there, but there we go.
Ducks can't swim, fish can fly. What else are we going to
What is alienating work?
Sorry?
What does it mean?
Okay, so alienating work. In the working environment, when you're there, you're working in your job, and you've got a supervisor that's on your case constantly. It builds up a pressure. Now, alienating is probably a broader term in what it could mean, but my perspective of it is all these pressures that he receives from co-workers, the amount of work and everything. You know, he brings this home with him. You know, and this is why the family is producing a nice atmosphere, an ability for it to unwind and release all these stresses.
Your perception of it, Carl, is spot on. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, don't get big-headed.
You're already feeding into it, yeah. My narcissism grows daily.
Definitely.
They're even taking pictures of you now. Look, Sophie's taking pictures. Pretending it's about the board, but
Just tell me next time I pose.
his good size is his right size, so just get him. Okay. So,
I should.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I should be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
She's off limits.
You can read
I
it
mean,
as
she
well.
can do what she wants to. Like, no, I'm just saying.
I'm going to take it we're all done then.
No.
No.
Social sciences.
Oh dear. We're funny.
What sciences?
Is this government the first one? Because it says appointed lack of bed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just...
So we've got two German philosophers. They've got fantastic beards. Now we've come to an American-born man, disappointing lack of beard. What can I say? Clearly there's a trend going on here. Now, if you'd have seen me maybe 2 months ago, I had a beard down to there, so yeah, I've got a big thing for beards. Well, not anymore.
You must have a lot of patience.
I'd like to think so. I'm probably can be proved wrong very quickly, but
If you've got the patience to grow a beard, you've got patience to do anything, really.
Well, this is
That's
true.
why you've done this course.
yeah, this is it. You know, I spent 15 years in hospitality and decided, you know what, let's go to school. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Cool. Right then. So, we're going to expand on this a little bit now. So, the warm bath theory. We've heard about it in functionalism, but we're going to take the Marxist perspective of it, which is what I explained to you with the man in his own kingdom. And, you know, the people that, well, the bourgeoisie, they're keeping everyone in their place by the fact that they're making the man believe he's got his own kingdom at home. Just reiterating on what we've got so far earlier. It's an endless cycle of working, because you go into work, you gain this frustration, you're going home, you're putting it out there, and you're ready to go back in the next day. There's no real sense of moving forward. You stand still even though you're going. And this is what the Marxists are saying. There's no benefit to you in the long run other than the same repetition, which also lead to vengeful oppression of the family unit. If you become that much of a tyrant in your own home, like they are at the work, what's going to happen? Leads to abuse, leads to even death, poor health. Now, the Marxists, they have the class conflict between what you can have and what you can't have, and there's always this resentment that's boiling underneath. And this safety valve's there for that reason, but just imagine if it wasn't, where would that go? And what Marx is saying is, stop this. They cannot operate and they cannot make money without you. So rise up, say no. And this is where they want to even out. Also, it can has the status element to it as well. If you look at your neighbours and think, oh, they've got a nice garden, oh, they've got a nice car. What Marx has said is that the bourgeoisie have made a bubble, a pink cloud, where you want to compete with your neighbours, which can also lead to tension. So you feel more inclined to go out and buy that new car if you don't already need it.
Or the money would be loan the car and you looking to the money to buy it for cash and you overstress yourself.
Exactly. You lead yourself into debt, which causes even more pressures than already currently in. You feel more inclined that you've got to work, so you're getting the pressures from work and coming home. It's an explosive situation. All these things that they're looking at that gravitate all around the home.
But do you not just think that just depends on the type of person you are?
Oh yeah, there's individual circumstances to it, and you know, you've got your own mind of who you are. However, what he's looking at is the pressure. gap. If you do the same thing and have the same stresses for 40 years, at one point in time you're going to break regardless of how strong you are. And this is what they're saying. It's just a repeated cycle of gaining nothing while that stuff's happening around you, the same stresses. And the entire ideology is about breaking that cycle, becoming more. Don't give them the power, take the power. And to do that, you've got to be strong and stand up.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you referring these to?
Okay, so the warm bath theory, which you covered in functionalism, Zaretsky was a big perpetrator for that, and said that this is how it boils down. That you come home, you get soothed. However, the Marxist perspective is, it's not just a case of being soothed. The man has been offered his own position of power. He's got his own kingdom, and it's what the bourgeoisie are using to keep the proletariat in place. So this is yours. You created this, and you go home and you can rule it. And then when you go back to work the next day, all the stresses come back. But when you go back home again, you can then take action. Let's see what we've got next. Here's a good quote. I'm not quite sure if that's Karl Marx or a terrifying hedgehog, but let the ruling classes tremble at a communist revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite, which is what we've just been talking about. Their entire ideology is, don't be less than you are, rise up and take the power back. They are nothing without us. Now, we've got a video here. Gareth thinks it's absolutely terrible, but I think it's fantastic. So if you excuse me a second.
I may add, it was me who put the video up. I'm not criticising Kyle, because that really made me sound as though I was like crucifying you, Kyle.
Oh, you're more than welcome to, trust me, yeah.
Oh no, I will, but just not with this bit.
Though you are a Marxist and you see the family as a negative institution that mainly benefits the ruling class?
Indeed I do. Like all institutions, the family is just another way of controlling the working class and helping to maintain the capitalist economy.
But how does it do this? As a functionalist, I can only see the family as beneficial to individuals and helping to keep society running.
Well, you need to look at how the family helps private property be handed down and keep wealth in the hands of individuals. Engels notes how inheritance is central to the family.
Yes, and I guess that you see this as wrong, don't you? Shouldn't people keep what they work hard for?
This isn't the point. The point Engels makes is that before the family was created, we were more caring about each other and shared more. The family has helped divide us.
Oh, and what about the way the family helps us emotionally, psychologically? Look at Parsons' warm theory. The family is an escape and a source of stability, isn't it?
You ignore the fact that the family absorbs the frustrations of exploited workers. Zaretsky notes how the main winners of this are the capitalists who get healthy workers next day.
You are so negative, aren't you? Socialization is central to family life too, and this helps people fit in and gel together in an integrated whole.
But you ignore that socialization is more about ideology and conditioning the working class to accept certain ideas. Ideas which support the ruling class. Get a grip.
It is quite bad, isn't it?
I enjoy it.
It's-
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
I don't understand it, to be honest.
It's great. It's very informative.
What we've just seen is... No. Stop it, YouTube. What we've just seen is a discussion between a functionalist and a Marxist. They've gone over some of the things that, well, the majority of the things that we've gone through today so far, and the functionalists put forward their perspective. It's nice, it's warm, it's cuddly, it's soothing, socialisation of the generation, it's more structured, it's better for everyone. The Marxists replied, well, look at what's happening, look at what actually is. is this actually like that? And the functionalist's only comeback is, well, you're quite negative, really, aren't you? Well, yes, it is, but there's a lot of negative to all this, and it's the reason why the Marxists are looking and saying, take a look at what's happening in front of you. It isn't all that great. You've been told a lie to keep you going, to keep working, to keep making money for the ruling class. So what are you gaining? Now, it doesn't say it exactly like that, obviously, but that's the gist that I take from that video. And looking through all of this, the functionalism, the Marxism, the feminism, this is the things that you're going to see quite a lot, especially when you're doing it in relation to the family, because Marxism as a whole is a gigantic thing. You're going to get lost in it when you do your research. When you come into the family, you're going to see all sorts of things that are going to be interjecting, things that you're going to challenge your own beliefs. But the only advice I can give you is read everything, read as much as you can, from as many people as you can, and gain the perspective yourself, and then when you can put it into practice there. Right. So we've got some criticisms here. Okay, so is the family centred around work? Completely. This is the reason why it's there, according to them. Is the nuclear family popular within society? Marxism ignores the benefits of nuclear family. Completely. This is part of the ideology. You created a unit just to create a workforce of someone else. It's not for yourself. Functionalists say quite a lot about the Marxist perspective. You're going to hear quite a lot about it, because they're going to put their opinion forward that it's good, it's nice, it's comfy, it's fluffy, there's benefits all under the sun. And then feminists argue that the Marxists focus on class more than it does on individual genders and roles and the person itself. And this is where it's leading into female oppression, because the wives are given their services for economic security, as opposed to being themselves individual people. But criticism is it's too deterministic. It assumes that people passively accept what's happening with family life, and the future is predetermined because it continues. It's not the case, especially not now. Things have changed and moved on. Not completely, but getting there. And this is what we're saying, the time has changed. Things have moved on, but we still are in a capitalist society. As much as the family unit has now evolved into what it is now, doesn't mean that the same pressures aren't there that there were 200 years ago, 150 years ago. It just comes to the outdated aspect of it.
What do you mean? What problems would we have now that we back in those days?
Okay, so you still get up, you go to work 9 to 5, come home, you have a meal, you've got the people you like around you, not as much your family, but the people that you associate with. You vent, you bitch and moan about your day, you go home, you go to bed, you get up ready for the work next day. Do you see any similarities to the structure that Karl Marx describes at the beginning?
Suppose, yeah.
Okay. So, to end all that one off is research, research, research and research. You're going to be sick of it, but on this course it is vital. If you don't do the research, you're not going to be able to do the work. And trust me, we're at the end of it now. We've seen the people that don't do it. Doesn't end well. But it's interesting. You may not seem it right now, but once you start, you can get lost in it. And, try not to delve into much of Marxism as a whole. Make sure you do refer it to the family. Now, it seems quite negative, as a functionalist has said, that everything's looked down upon and scrutinised. It's like, this is not good, we should change, we should change, we should change. However, Marxism evolves into something that's slightly scary at some point in time, something that no one wants. So I'm going to end it on that. Communism. It's a party that everyone's invited to, but you really don't want it. And that's where I'm going to end it on that, unless Gareth has anything else to add.
Spot on, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.